Hello YouTube, I'm here to talk to you today about the PRVKE by WANDRD. It's the backpack that has quite a following. I've been making some modifications to mine and that's what we're going to go over today. If you want to see my review / talk of some things I've planned, you can check out my previous video here, down there somewhere. And I'm going to make this a multi-part. This is part 2. Today we're going to go over the closure system, which I've completely changed and revamped, as you might notice from just looking at it. And I've already talked a little bit about the straps that I've already removed. Today I hope to go into a little more detail, get some close-up shots of some of the stitches I made and things like that. So, number one problem is, if you missed the last video, as I already talked about, is this bag used to roll the other way. And WANDRD put in a hook system, so you can see this is like a daisy chain, a large daisy chain, and there was a G hook right here that would connect to the daisy chain. And so this was the system. These little things did not stick out because there was no clip on the edges. So basically you were left with a bag that rolled like that. It was down to the front. Would hook, which of course was secure. It also had some Velcro to kind of make it stick. And I, number one, just wanted to make this roll the other way. So that's kind of what started all of this. To make it roll the other way, we lose the daisy chains. It's going to be on the other side. And then we have to kind of figure out a better way for the ends, because I just think they need to kind of be tucked. So that's why I put some buckles on. But they need to be tucked down so that they're out of the way. You have a little sleeker pack. It doesn't catch on people as you walk past them. It doesn't catch on doorways, things like that. So that's what I've done here. Let's dive in a little closer and take a look. Alright, so let's take a look at actually how easy it is to open the bag now. I've added a Fidlock V-buckle on each side, and that's this fancy new style buckle that's got magnet. It's magnet secured. It is very solid until you just lift this little tab. And once you lift that tab, it is free. So I had to attach both those. We'll talk about that in a second. This buckle in the front is, I wanted a buckle that fit the existing 2-inch strap. And so the 2-inch strap is something I didn't want to alter because it would just kind of look bad if you took it off of the front. Or it would look bad if you downsized somehow, like maybe stitch a smaller one here. And so I want to keep the look of the 2-inch. And so 2-inch buckle kind of limited some of my options. Fidlock does not make a 2-inch buckle, for example. But I'm glad because I stumbled upon this buckle by AustriaApin. So this is called the GT Cobra. And this is based on their safety buckle, but basically if you push one side, it won't unlock. If you push the other side, it won't unlock. Only both at once will make it come out. This is plastic, so this is a plastic version of their metal one. I think the plastic is nice because it's ultra light, and then if this is like, say, dangling, you're not gonna hurt anybody if it smacks into something, or so at least it's not gonna smack anything really hard. So that's super easy. And then of course got the other V-buckle right here. So once you undo all that, you're free to go. So let's take a look real quick. To make this one happen, I actually had to attach this strap in the very back. So I chose one of the seams. Now your options here are the seam that's adjacent directly to the zipper. Really not a good idea. Somewhere on the other side of the zipper. Not only is there not really a spot for this, but I do think this would have, it would just hinder your ability to open and unzip. So as you come through, you want that clear. So it's going to have to be this seam, or you could go inwards even further and go like along the seam of the top pocket zipper. So you could choose this seam or this seam. One of the two, and I think the really best only option is the one that doesn't have a zipper attached to it. So pretty basic operation. I mean, just get a seam ripper, come in underneath here, turn this thing out, and you're basically gonna go all the way inside the bag. Let's pull this out here. So you're going to go all the way inside the bag and you're going to look at which seam you're actually looking for and just start ripping the thread very carefully. Don't hurt this thing, this seam tape that you see covering all the seams. This is pretty important to kind of stay intact, and you want to just be careful as you rip seams that you're not really taking anything out. Now this particular seam, because you're not going in against some kind of strap or webbing or anything that's already in there, it's just a simple stitch all the way across. So it took me maybe 2-3 minutes. Next thing, you take the, this is the female end of the buckle. By the way, you can purchase these buckles as a, you know, any combination you like. You can get the female end to be non-adjustable. You can get the male end to be non-adjustable, or vice versa. And actually you have to buy the parts separately. So I chose the male end to be the adjuster, female end not to be the adjuster. And so that basically means I just need a loop of webbing here. Take the 2-inch webbing that I got off of the old tote strap, which was on the front of the bag, and you know, create a loop. I chose the length of mine. This is probably, I'd say it's sticking out about 2.5 inches. It's entirely arbitrary, sort of, I guess. I did just kind of evaluate this. I'm about to show you here, which is that when I want it laying over, I want that buckle to fall roughly on top. So that's kind of why I chose the spot I chose for the length, and that just, you know, that's gonna leave the buckle right there when there's really nothing in the bag. If there's more in the bag, this buckle's gonna go straight up the back a little bit. This buckle will come around the top. So you've got, you know, you got options. You could make it a lot shorter. You could make it longer, obviously. This is what I chose, about 2.5 inches out. I also took a ruler and just made sure it was centered. Now I found something interesting once I had centered it, which is that the daisy chain was not centered. So I don't know how well you can make out what's centered and what's not here, but basically I chose to line it with the daisy chain in the end, which put it off of the actual center line of the pack just a little bit, and you can see that in the area between the shoulder straps. So I'm actually off by about 1/4 inch off to one side, and that's really just to match the daisy chain in case that's ever kind of a visual comparison. But this was actually just pretty easy to do here. Okay, so once you got everything lined up, I use a stapler to actually just kind of, you know, pin it in place. The staple goes, regular stapler, staple goes from the inside. It's just gonna line up all the layers you got in there and just give it a few staples right along the seam that you're about to sew, but a little further in so that you can get the sewing machine in there. And then just run your seam. So I'm using a Juki 8700. It is an industrial machine. This is, I also have no idea how a home machine or any lesser machine would do. This had more than enough power to get through this, because really you're just talking about 2 layers of webbing sandwiched with a couple layers of you know, the nylon. One thing that's important is the seam tape you need to get out of the way at first. So I put in 2 stitches first without the seam tape, and then I put the seam tape over the top, and then went back over it with a, you know, a big stitch all the way through everything. And that's really all I felt was necessary. You could do like a bar tack if you wanted. I just don't think that's going to really become necessary. This isn't going to be my grab handle, you know, per se, although it may sustain some heavy lifts once in a while. So you could definitely do the bar tack. I just didn't really see the need for it. So so that's it for the Cobra buckle. Once that was on, it just worked beautifully. And took a little while to get the Fidlocks in the mail. So let's take a look at those. Okay, so let's take a look at these Fidlocks. So first of all, to open, just lift. It's so awesome. You're just gonna want to do it over and over. And once you have these on your bag, you can just do this anywhere you want. But I mean, there's beautiful buckles, and a lot of fun also. So let's talk first about the top and how to get these things started here. So when you look at the top of the roll, this is going to be real simple. Basically, we're just going to open up these stitches on the end here. Okay, so we're going to open up these stitches right here. This stitch in particular, a little bit of the stitching here, and again this is with the seam ripper. You're going to need some 1-inch webbing, and then you take the this would be the female end of the buckle. I chose to put the female end up here and the male end down here because if there's going to be an adjuster, which I need, I don't want it flopping around on top of the pack. I want it along the side. So, so this is female end, and it goes on the top. So, yeah. So just take your loop, open the seam, put your loop back. Now, important consideration is the orientation. So if you look, this is the it's basically the pack splayed out here, and this is going to be facing upwards. So when you take the buckle, it will go straight in, right side up. The little doohickeys are standing up, and here's the back. So we'll call this the top or the front. I came to this conclusion that it needed to be orientated this way just by rolling it down, rolling it up again. And one concern I had is with any roll top, you might roll it 4 times once, and next time just 3 times, next time 5 times. And who really knows how many times you're going to roll a roll top? That actually had me puzzled for quite some time until I realized that this bag wants to roll 4 times pretty much every time. So we can actually just roll. So first of all, let me explain this. This first thing is the wrong direction, and that's kind of left over from them setting up this bag to go the other way. Then you need to start this way. Okay, so here's 1, 2, 3, 4. And at 4, you are basically at the bottom. There's really nothing in the top level right now in my bag. So you see the 4 rolls, we are there. Now, as this thing gets more full, it'll still do 4 rolls until it gets really full, and then I can basically back it up to 2 rolls. But you can also kind of, if you really had to do an odd number of rolls, you could start to twist these around and kind of attach it backwards, because really this thing's going to bend around because it's on a strap. But what I figured out is it's really not a concern. 4 rolls is what it wants to do, so therefore you can be comfortable just putting it in a stationary orientation. I was looking at things like a swivel and other ways I could get it to actually spin, but I don't think it's really necessary. So sew this guy in there, sew the opposite side in there, and then we'll move on to the male end of the buckle. Okay, so here we are on the side of the bag. We're taking a look at the Fidlock. Now this buckle was already here. So this is your, regular buckle that's side push buckle that's there for, tripod or whatever. And as I looked at this edge, I really wanted to put it kind of in a seam. So I was ready to do kind of some seam ripping and put the thing back together. And I ended up settling just on sewing it directly to the side of the buckle. Or sorry, the strap of this buckle. So this strap goes all the way into the side. And where it goes in is roughly where I decided to make the stitch. And the reason I did that instead of opening up one of these seams, it's not terribly hard to do, but you do need to be able to get the sewing machine in there. Now you can get into the panel via the big zipper, and you can, let me just show you. So if you open the whole thing, and you kind of see how there are some places where you can kind of get, there we go. So in other words, you could sink one right here, but the problem is, so I'm lining up right there. The problem with that is inside the bag, this bar goes all the way across, blocks you from getting inside any further. So in other words, you can get kind of right here. Okay, that's well below. But right about here, you run into this cross member, cross beam, whatever you want to call it, that separates these two inner pockets. And that really starts to hinder your ability to get in here. Now we also have a loop here. So there's a loop, and it's going to be bar tacked. So it's going to start to mess with the actual integrity of the vinyl fabric that's on the other side. You got a little space where the zipper is here before this next loop. So you could maybe just sink it right alongside the zipper, but then that's going to hinder the zipper. Okay, so kind of the similar problem up top is we got to figure out what makes the most sense. So in the end, we go with just going on the strap. And it's actually a little, you know, the thing I like about it is that it's really adjustable in the future to, see, I can just take the buckle off and then I can just undo this whole strap. Okay, and so what I did is I sewed a tri-glide onto the current strap. Now, if you don't want to do sewing, if you don't want to modify your pack kind of permanently, I wouldn't say this is permanent, as you can always pull the seam out, but if you wanted something a little less invasive, you can actually just get this little piece of hardware made by Duraflex, and it is for sternum strap, and you can use that to put onto here as a tri-glide. You'd slide it all the way over, and then you would have a loop that you can attach to. But I like the tri-glide. So this webbing here is actually separate, comes all the way off. So this is the sewing project I had to do, is a single stitch, and it's a single stitch, and it really wasn't too bad. I kind of made a mess of it. I don't know if you can see my stitch quality, but that's really because this whole thing had to get right next to the sewing machine, and it was actually just kind of hard to get everything kind of right under there. And so just kind of get this whole thing maneuvered next to the sewing machine, put your stitches down, and the tri-glide becomes your point of connection at that point. Okay, I bought these on Etsy, I think for about $9 a piece, so not too bad. So once that's done, you would just put up your webbing like I had it a second ago, put this on the end of the webbing, and you finally have, you know, what I consider a more proper closure for a roll bag. And one of the nice things I like about it is this is going to pull down the corner. It's going to pull the corner down and kind of keep it out of people's way, out of your way. It's not going to catch on doorways. And so that's really it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you guys give this a try. It is fantastic. Let me just demonstrate the full speed. It's a lot easier to get in and out. And I love how these Fidlocks just kind of go into place. You don't really have to finesse them or anything. You just put it in the ballpark. This one's really quick too. Just jam it home. So I think it's sleeker, it looks better, works better, and definitely worth the time and money. I'd say the buckles, you know, I already said the Fidlock's about $9 each, plus shipping, that was about 25 bucks. And then the GT Cobra buckle, I believe I spent about 25 bucks. So that's $50 right there. So definitely, you know, something to think about. More than anything, I'm just kind of bored, so it's worth the money. But to improve the bag, especially in an area I thought was really lacking, I think is really worth it. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to keep going. I got more plans for this bag. Next up, I'm going to address the lack of organization inside, because those of you that own one of these already know that there's just nothing inside for pockets really, you know, so we're going to fix that. So hope you tune in, subscribe. My name's Jeff, by the way. I don't know if I introduced myself at the beginning. This is Cooper, and hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you next time. Okay.